Welcome to Matt's Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Let me start with some quite dramatic news overnight, and that's all around Tesla. This is a weekly chart from Sun Chartist. You can see the bump higher that we've had over a few weeks and the considerable bump we received yesterday. And that was because of this tweet from Elon Musk. I'm considering taking Tesla private at $420 a share. This might well fall foul of the SEC. However, we then learned that it was all off the back of a $2 billion stake that the Saudis had revealed. I tweeted, "Clever Elon Musk, did you share a Tesla killer with the Crown Prince?" And that references a tweet from Elon Musk on April Fool's Day when he tweeted, "Elon was found passed out against a Tesla Model 3 surrounded by Tesla killer bottles, the tracks of dried tears still visible on his cheeks." This is not a forward-looking statement because obviously what's the point? Happy New Month. Of course, according to The Rock, the Crown Prince is partial to a tequila or two. Short squeeze in one chart, Tesla share shoot up as trading resumes. That's from Holger. To take Tesla private, Elon Musk would have to pull off the largest leveraged buyout in history. Texas electric utility TXU in 2007 was the largest one previously. Tesla doesn't fit the typical profile of a company that can raise tens of billions of dollars of debt to fund such a deal. It's lost money on an operating basis every year since going public. Neither Musk's tweets nor his blog posts make mention of how the company would pay for it. Tesla closed at $379.57, up 11% from Monday. The market doesn't believe him, said David Cudier, the CEO of Mainstay Capital. His credibility has come into question over a number of things. If this were real, you'd expect the stock to go closer to $420 a share than it has. Previously, the largest LBO was TXU at $48 billion. If Elon succeeds with Tesla at $420, that would equal $71 billion, making it by far the largest LBO in history. In just 61 characters, Elon Musk's changed the future of Tesla. Here's our second-by-second recap of the day's events. So, look, plenty to chew over here, but this is quite extraordinary. If he pulls this off, he really has pulled a rabbit out of the hat. Bitcoin tumbles below 6,500 for the first time since July. We're just above that level right now. Here's China's trade relationship with the US over the last 17 years based on Chinese government data. That's from David Inglis. And the thing to look at here is really the US is the taker, and this is what makes Trump powerful in his negotiations with Xi Jinping. It's the imbalance in the relationship. Trump has kind of counterintuitively turned it to his advantage, which it is actually. And this goes back to the piece I wrote at the beginning of last month, Tariff Wars, Who Blinks First? I was saying then Trump has now turned his attention to Xi Jinping and thrown in the keys, challenging him to a chicky run, which is posing a kind of existential question. And I also said last month, from a trading perspective, the fire starter, the chicky run specialist, Trump is actually beginning to shake Xi. Home thoughts. This is a photograph entitled Predator, David Yarrow. I must have spent several days waiting at this point in the river over the last few years, and this is the best image yet. I just wanted to convey size and sovereignty. Nothing else really mattered. This is raw Alaska at its best. World at risk of heading towards irreversible hothouse state. where global average temperatures will be 4 to 5 degrees Celsius higher than even if emissions reduction targets under a global climate deal are met, scientists said in a study published on Monday. Scientists from the Stockholm Resilience Centre, the University of Copenhagen, Australian National University and Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research said it is likely that if a critical threshold is crossed, several tipping points will lead to abrupt change. Such processes include permafrost thaw, the loss of methane hydrates from the ocean floor, weaker land and ocean carbon sinks, the loss of Arctic summer sea ice, and the reduction of Antarctic sea ice and polar ice sheets. These tipping elements can potentially act like a row of dominoes. Once one is pushed over, it pushes Earth towards another. It may be very difficult or impossible to stop the whole row of dominoes from tumbling over. Places on Earth will become uninhabitable if hothouse Earth becomes the reality, he said. In the context of the summer of 2018, this is definitely not a case of crying wolf, raising a false alarm. The wolves are now in sight, said Phil Williamson, climate researcher at the University of East Anglia. November 2015, I wrote, I cannot help feeling we are like frogs in boiling water. And then on that note, look at this. Wildfire water experts rebut Trump's claims. I like this. L'imagerie thermique infrarouge au service de la protection des espèces en danger. Staying with the theme of heat. This is a thermal photograph. And then surface thermal manifestations, explosion and gas emission at Mount Etna. Great photographs. Political reflections. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says 11 hired assassins trained in Colombia were offered $50 million to kill him as part of Saturday's thwarted attack. The suspects were trained in a farm in Chinacota, Colombia, and were planning a July 5 attack that was postponed due to the delayed arrival of the two drones, Maduro said in a televised address from the presidential palace on Wednesday. The suspects were keeping track of Maduro's public appearances and were told they could stay in the US following the attack, Maduro said. I saw death in the face and I said, this is not your time yet, this is the time for life, Maduro said. I'm sure these assassins will receive the harshest of punishments. We've written about it severally. 8th of May last year, we were talking about how it was at breaking point, but you know, breaking point can last for a very long time. Malaysia's former Prime Minister Najib to be charged with money laundering. That's a prima facie case. The Congo Press Corporation was called yesterday to Kabila's farm in Kingakati. Kabila never speaks to the press. The deadline for presidential candidates is today, Thomas M. Wilson. Mohamed bin Zayed is received by the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Cairo in this photograph. Simone Gbagbo, the wife of President Gbagbo, who was overthrown by Ouattara, gets amnesty. My piece over the weekend was about the Indian Ocean economy and a port race. There is not one night we sleep without thinking of you, Soleimani said ominously in a televised appearance last month. Mr. Gambler Trump, we are near you where you don't expect. And I was kind of connected Soleimani to Hassan al-Sabah, who founded the order known as the Assassins, often referred to as the Hashashins, a group of Fedayeen who used to get close to their target before killing them. International markets, Turkey 10-year bond yield hits a record 20%. That's from Jonathan Ferro going back to May 2018. Countries that have been flying by the seat of their pants are now being caught with their pants down. Erdogan is one of those. This Bloomberg chart highlights that Turkey's Erdogan is to blame for the current lira rout and not negative sentiment towards emerging markets. 60-day correlation between the Turkish currency and a gauge of developing nation exchange rates has turned negative for the first time since January 2000. Hike bank dollar debt slid to a record low, jumped to 21.3% on a yield basis. They, of course, were implicated in the barter business of oil for gold with Iran. Iran's rial has recovered for now from its tailspin over the past 10 days, where it fell as low as 118,000 to the dollar. It's now at 92,500, which returns the rial to levels in the last week of July. In this tweet, it's being predicted that it's the new FX policy, which is likely the main driver for the rial's boost. As I said previously, financial warfare has proven effective in this case and in others, but it has spread contagion and created a negative feedback loop in the region from Dubai to Turkey and others. And I was also saying that, it's a very resilient regime, and the MEK, who Bolton and Giuliani seem to be cheerleading, are really a bunch of chancers, if not a cult. I like this cartoon from the Telegraph, Financial Warfare. In a cartoon, great FANG dashboard via the FT, and thanks to Convert Bond for pointing it out to me. The 10-year Treasury yield has pierced 3% 4 times since April. It's failed to hold above it each time. Currency markets, euro dollar 116 at 10. We bounced, we were quite close to piercing that level of 115, and then recovered. Dollar index 95.02, Japanese yen 111.16, Swiss franc 0.9939, the pound 129.33, having got as high as 129.60 at one point. The Australian dollar 0.7421, India rupee 68.615, South Korean won 1117.89, the rial 375.16, Egyptian pound 17.8735. That's been very steady in this emerging market sell-off. South African rand firms a little bit, 13.2849. This is a 3-month chart of the dollar index. As you can see, we've been in this 94, 96 range for a little while now. Euro dollar, another 3-month chart, 116.13 last. You can see we went down again with a 115 handle before rebounding. Gold, 12.13 trading. It's subdued a little with a downside tilt, I think. WTI crude oil, this has been a story of Iran and Trump's jaw keeping it bid. Let's move on to Africa. South Sudan President Salva Kiir promotes his wife to become a major general in the army. It's Kobo 3. Russia is making new friends in Africa. Bashitsky says it's a risky business all round. The murder of 3 Russian journalists last week in a remote area of the Central African Republic, the world's poorest country according to the World Bank, has turned a spotlight on what looks like a Kremlin play for influence and resources in Africa. Where China has spent decades and billions of dollars trying to entrench itself there, Russia is offering its brute force and strong appetite for risk. It's already making headway. 3 journalists working on an investigative film about the Wagner private military company. That's a secretive Russian contractor linked by news reports to Yevgeny Prigozhin, a St. Petersburg catering entrepreneur close to Russian President Putin. He's also indicted in the US along with the Internet Research Agency, a troll farm he funded that has been caught up in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of Russian interference. Talking about Russia sent weapons along with 5 military and 170 civilian instructors to train the nation's military forces. They got a special official dispensation arguing that the weapons were for the UN-supported regime. The mining concessions and the civilian instructors, however, appear to be more closely linked than the foreign ministry let on. Africa Intelligence reported in July that the government of the CAR had begun extracting diamonds on an alluvial site not far from the capital Bangui with the help of a company called Lebaya Invest. And they reported that Wagner fighters were delivering mining equipment to the site in armored trucks. This is a business model Wagner has reportedly used in Syria, where it lends its private troops to the regime of President Assad, and in return receives a share of the revenues from the oil wells and refineries the troops recover from regime opponents. The CAR diamonds are a commodity on which no ordinary business can get its hands. In the 1960s, the country exported 500,000 carats of diamonds a year, a volume that would make it the 7th biggest exporter in the world today. Putin's Russia sought to restore its Soviet-era influence throughout the developing world, and its activity in Africa is not limited to the CAR. It's worth watching for reports of Russian concessions in other nations such as Sudan, Chad, and Gabon. The Wagner business model is well suited to the region, where a forceful presence can be a prerequisite for successful business, and where looking into how this business is conducted can easily get one killed. Interesting. Will Congo go to the polls or go to war, asks Foreign Policy. And they're investigating a particular area outside Kinshasa. The government doesn't want elections to take place and is using its men to control armed groups around the country. In case people want Kabila to leave power, he has control of the forces that he can use to protect him. This is to do with local government in Masisi. Mugabe's kiss of death sealed Chamisa's poll defeat. All in Zimbabwe and outside now await the evidence of rigging of the elections, which Chamisa says he has got and is taken to the Zimbabwean courts. He needs to provide compelling evidence, otherwise many people will see his actions as bordering on politricks. The long-suffering people of Zimbabwe want to move forward. So many factors stood against Chamisa's win. Just to imagine that the army would take over power from Mugabe and then hand it over to Chamisa for Mugabe to exercise power through his proxies is beyond me. It's a serious misreading, if not miscalculation, of Zimbabwe's complex political landscape. Now, increasingly in a plot twist, Zimbabwe's army chief is said to demand who ordered the crackdown. He wants to know who ordered troops last week to break up protests against the ruling party's election victory, and why he wasn't informed about the decision, according to 3 senior government officials. At the meeting with the President, Sibanda, a respected figure who commanded a multinational peacekeeping force in Angola, also wanted to know the identity of armed men dressed in ragtag uniforms that were shown on social media, beating people and riding in military vehicles. He said publicly that no Zimbabwean soldier was ordered to fire on unarmed civilians, and no such directive would ever be given. We're witnessing what are purported soldiers, but they're not soldiers. We're very busy investigating this, Foreign Minister Sibusiso Moyo, a retired general, said Tuesday by phone. In November last year, I wrote about the military, and I said, they launched this decapitation and are certainly set to shape the outcome, but now have a tiger by the tail. This is an image of masked soldiers hunting down protesters in the streets of Harare. It says many things. Come and invest in Zimbabwe probably isn't one of them. Zimbabwe police hunt for opposition MDC officials, that's Nahanda Radio. Ethiopia's spring of hope, winter of despair. Very interesting essay. One of the most famous opening lines in literature, Charles Dickens wrote in his famous novel A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope. Was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, and we were all going direct the other way. And saying sustaining the momentous changes that the new Prime Minister initiated may prove to be very difficult, if not impossible. This would spell disaster that would turn the euphoria into a nightmare, the best of times into the worst of times, the light into darkness, and the hope into despair. South Africa has warned that AGOA eligibility under threat if land expropriation goes ahead. SA could breach eligibility requirements of the AGOA Act if the country proceeds with plans to implement land appropriation without compensation, the trade union Solidarity has warned. South African all shares down 3.02% this year. Dollar versus rand last at 13.2848. Nigerian all share down 4.99% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index up 11.03% year to date. Traders blocked Tanzanian goods in the Manga border standoff. This is at the Kenya-Tanzania border. For us, Africa is definitely the place to be. This is this AB InBev CEO Carlos Brito, who was visiting South Africa. We're very excited about Africa because we have experience in Latin America and Asia. Some people look at Africa and see a lot of volatility and uncertainty. We see opportunity, he said. They have operations in 15 markets, mainly in southern and eastern Africa, but also Ghana and Nigeria in West Africa. Announced plans to invest $100 million in a new 1 million hectolitre per year brewery in Tanzania, where beer volumes jumped by a fifth last year, and its local unit Tanzania Breweries already runs 4 facilities. For us, Africa is definitely the place to be, he said. The IMF concluded its visit to Kenya, and there is a very interesting press release which I've linked up on Rich Wrap-Ups. One of the comments that came away, significant progress was made during the visit, and discussions will continue in the coming weeks. The team thanks the authorities for their hospitality and constructive discussions. It's now transpired that overseas shareholders own 50.42% of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, compared with just 7.07% at the end of the first half of 2017. Have a look at the NSE. It's trading on a PE ratio of 20.663, and I think it's actually a buy on dips. Kenya shilling 100.43, best performing sub-Saharan African currency against the dollar. Nairobi all share down 0.12% year to date. NSE 20 down 11.37% year to date. Let me leave you with a photograph of the beach in Mombasa. This is the public beach. And with that, I shall take my leave.